Hello, everybody. It's me, Ross, and Town Fan Bloomers as we discuss Town's new additions. Of course, last week it was a busy week. Two fantastic signings in Joe Pigott and Scott Fraser. I want to get Bloomers' thoughts on both of them. Bloomers, let's start off with Joe Pigott. Signed on a free transfer, 3-year deal from AFC Wimbledon. Scored 20 goals last season in League One, Joe Pigott. Your thoughts? It's good to see that we're signing a striker who scored goals at a level we play in.
Absolutely, Ross. Good to talk to you again. And yeah, it's a really positive signing. I mean, you look at last season and how we were, and obviously there was a myriad of problems, but the main one was putting the ball in the back of the net. I don't think there was a team in the top half that had scored less goals than us throughout the season. So it's painfully clear what the issue was. And obviously we went on that barren run that stretched 7 or 8 games or whatever it was without scoring. So we've looked to address that in this transfer window. So we've got Macaulay Bonne in as well. And I don't think any sane, rational Town fans can moan, because on paper, it's exactly what we need. So a striker that's scored proven goals at this level, and they're hard to come by. You know, in our standing right now, if we want to challenge at the top end of the league, you're going to need more than James Norwood. And we assume Kane Jackson might be on his way out, or we don't quite know what's going to happen. But whatever it may be, more firepower was needed. And he's a big, strong player. I mean, I know we had Ollie Hawkins last season. Ollie Hawkins last season. I wish we had Ollie Hawkins last season. Ollie Hawkins last season, who was obviously a big, strong player. Didn't quite work out for him. But yeah, I mean, you look at what he did at a lower mid-table team like Wimbledon, and you hope that he can transfer his skill set to a team who should hopefully be playing at a higher bit in the league and maybe a higher level. See, like James Norwood has done when he's been fit and when he's been playing. And yeah, if he gets the service from our pretty much new midfield, then it could be a recipe for success. But the fact that he's a free transfer, I feel like it's quite a low risk anyways. So let's just wait and see. But 20 goals last season, if he does anything near to that this season, then we should be looking in the right direction.
Before we get on to Scott Fraser, the upgrades in all the positions so far, Wes Burns replacing, Gwion Edwards, Joe Pigott replacing Ollie Hawkins, Lee Evans replacing Cole Scouse, and those sort of players, Emmy Hughes as well, Raheem Harper, coming in. Massive upgrades. And Scott Fraser, would you say that's the marquee signing, signed for an undisclosed fee from MK Dons? I was going to bring out the stats, but you said you got the stats, and I know a lot of people know about the stats, but chuck them at me.
Well, I mean, it's not quite a stat for Scott Fraser. It's more of a damning stat from Ipswich Town. But certainly on paper, Fraser's the most surprising signing, I'd say, just given that it kind of came from nowhere, really. You tend to sometimes see or hear different things, but this one seemed to come, very late in the day before he put pen to paper. But look, in years between 2002 2005, we had a midfielder who scored 36 times in 3 seasons, and that was Tommy Miller. And since then, I mean, I don't have the stats for the rest of them, but I dare say we maybe have had 1 or 2 maybe midfielders that have scored double figures in a season. Keith Andrews springs to mind. Jimmy Bullard. Again, these are almost half seasons. Other than that, a goal scoring midfielder is just something we've not had in our armory. So it's fantastic to finally nail someone who looks like they could be delivering it. Yes, I know a lot of his goals were from penalties, but Harry Kane won the World Cup the other year by scoring 3 penalties. No one's gonna say, oh, he shouldn't. Well, actually, no, people will say that, but he's good with the Golden Boot. Do you know what I mean? Like, that will never be taken away from him. You've got to put the ball in the back of the net. If every England player would have put the ball in the back of the net and scored their penalties on, no, let's not even go there. So I don't care about that. At the end of the day, it's a midfielder that scores almost double figures in a season in League One, and they're hard to come by, just like a type of Joe Pigott is hard to come by. It's on paper fantastic, and I saw a stat where I think out of all the 4 professional leagues in England, in terms of passes in the final third, he ranked something like 3rd, or it's certainly in the top 5. So it goes to show. That okay, MK Dons played a very possession-based style of football, so maybe you'd expect Fraser to be making more passes in that area than some other teams, or even like ourselves. But when he has the ball in those advanced areas, he's constantly looking to play people in. And if we've got the likes of Bon and Pigott up front now, and obviously Norwood as well, you're going to need someone like Fraser to bring the best out of them. And again, nothing is won on paper, but on paper it looks a fantastic addition. It looks like one of those players that you would have in your team no matter what team you are in this division, even if you're not crying out for a midfielder. Someone like Fraser comes along, you'd be mad to pass him up, and it just so happens that we needed that kind of player anyway. So really, really exciting, and yeah, if he links up well with the rest of the new midfield, so you've got Harper if he plays an advanced role, you've got Wes Burns as well. So, like, these are all players that at this level should do well. One word of caution is we all said 2 years ago, oh, this is a squad that should walk the league on paper. And it turns out these sort of players weren't up to the level that we thought they were for whatever reason. So I am more than happy with what we've done so far, but you just never know what it's going to be like until you're 10, 15, 20 games down the line, and then you can start to make rational decisions. So let's wait and see, but really, really positive so far.
You put the words out of my mouth there. That was my next question. What's your thoughts on the signings so far? They are signings of intent. With say Scott Fraser, Joe Pigott, I was looking through. They've actually players who have played a lot of games in a season. With signed players who have had injury problems and stuff. Hopefully, the curse of Ipswich Town won't go on them and they'll get injured. I've jinxed it. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. But we're getting players in who are upgrades, aren't they?
Yeah, well, I was reading this morning an article about Mark Ashton speaking about wanting to upgrade just the general infrastructure around Bolton Road. I hope that some of that money finds its way to the training ground. For the injury problems we've had over the last few years have derailed more than one campaign, and whatever the reason is, if it's an issue in the training ground, if it's an issue on our Portman Road pitch, if it's some kind of witch doctor curse, whatever it is, I hope that they can find out what it is and get rid of it. Because it's just happened too many times where a player's come into the club, not played as many games as you'd hope, or picks up an injury, but then leaves and all of a sudden plays 55 games a season again. So yeah, it's good to see that there are players coming in that have played regular games at this level, because let's make no mistake, this season, or every League One season, is a complete and utter slog. It was even worse last season because it was a truncated league where we started late and we still had to finish on time. So we would see in Saturday, Tuesdays, 4, 5, 6 weeks in a row. Probably isn't going to be like that. Well, touch wood, it's not going to be like that this season if the league manages to play out the way that they want it to and we want it to. But even so, 46 games is a tough ask. And make no mistake, I don't think we've seen the last of our signings. I think there are still 4, 5, 6 more to come, whether they be loans or permanent signings. But yeah, it's great to see what we've done so far. And Cook has been well and truly backed. Let's see it continue.
Wow, I think that's a perfect way to end it. But I've got one more question though, Bloomers. What's your prediction for the next signing? Which position we've seen? Defenders is one, I think.
You caught me on the hop with that. I thought you were going to say, where do you think we were going to finish in the league position?
No, that's too early to do that. We'll wait until the first game. A week before the first game, we'll get into that. We've got to play our pre-season game first.
Well, I think for all the fantastic signings we made so far, I don't think I'd be on my own to say defence is probably somewhere where I look next. Not because I don't know if it's hard to say that we're in trouble or not, because who we had last season, even if they were a lesser caliber of player, we actually had a relatively decent defensive record, barring a few games where we sort of lost the plot. If you look on average in the division, we conceded fewer goals than most of the league. So I'm not quite sure I subscribe to the theory that we desperately need 3 or 4 defenders, but certainly for the reasons I said earlier, with it just being such a long, hard slog, you need to get a few more bodies in there. So I could well see maybe an experienced centre-back come in, or an experienced player at the back in the mould of who we had last season, James Wilson, whose name completely escaped me for a minute. Just because you need some experience, because We've got quite a young nucleus now, and the average age of player that we've signed already has been quite low in compared to recent years. But you can't just rely on that. You do need to have some kind of old head in there. One of our good friends on the game day pod always asks for a hairy ass defender. I won't name any names, but you certainly know who I'm on about if you know him. And I subscribe to that completely. Someone like that to just put their head where many others wouldn't, to give a little bit of more leadership quality. Because I said this last season, I think the new captain of Ipswich Town, whoever it's going to be, wasn't here last season. And I know that some people think that the captain's already in here because it could be Lee Evans. I still think there could be another experienced player coming in, especially at the back. And if it's a Cook lieutenant, then they may well get the armband.
And of course, in this video, we're spoken about one hairy ass striker. I think Joe Pigott is that hairy ass striker. And yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But Bloomers, it's been a pleasure, my friend. Thank you very much for your thoughts. Let us know in the comments down below your feelings on these two great signings, and subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already, and look out for many more videos. Will there be another signing this week? Wait and see.